Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's finance meeting, start of the committee meetings. So we'll get right into the agenda. First item on is if there's any declarations of conflict or pecuniary interest, if any of the members have any. Seeing none, we'll move into our agenda portion. We have item 152, which unfinished business. It's the NRPS 2020 capital budget and 9-year capital forecast. This was requested to go back to the service for further discussion here at the Finance Committee. I'll put it through to the Chief. I don't know if there's a bit of a presentation, a recap presentation, or is it just going to be open for questions? I'll turn it over to yourself.
We have the presentation. I guess we're open to the board's wishes in that regards. If there are any questions that board members have, we certainly have the personnel here that can answer those questions.
Okay, so with that, we did have this presentation already. It's identical, so we'll move straight to the questions then. So if there's board members with questions, either with the report or through the with the presentation that was made at our board meeting in the past. So at this point in time, I'll open up for questions. Member Steele.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the Chief. Chief, thank you for the list of the capital projects that have debenture debt on them. The only thing I don't have here is what its per year cost is on our budget. I see the total of this, but really what is falling off as we move in. So what is budgeted yearly for each of these?
Thank you for the question. I'll refer our finance manager, Laura Rulo, to answer that question.
Okay, so through to the chair, are you asking whether we've incorporated the borrowing costs associated to that debt financing for those two particular capital projects?
Well, there's 7 projects listed here, and some come up in 2023. There's 3 of those. 2025 and 2026. But there's no associated cost that's built into our yearly budget for these. So I'll just take the NRPS, the scheduling sold, which is coming up in 2023. The original project cost is $500,000. How much per year is put aside to pay that debt off? That's all. Actually, you don't need to tell me today, but if you just email that to me, just so I know, because I think looking down the road is when we want to plan for things. So if that $500,000 debentured over the 5 years is, you know, $180,000 a year, including interest and whatever else, whatever the number may be, just so that I know that in planning for the forward, that in essence we can repurpose the money that's already in our budget to new debt, as opposed to not going forward with something and then a year later putting debt on it. I think we've got to be really cognizant of how we're going to proceed with projects over the next 10 to 20 years, to be quite honest, and how debt comes off and how it can be repurposed.
So just to clarify, you did ask for a board report on the outstanding capital projects that are currently financed through debenture. That is in the board report, in the package. It is the first board report of new business. However, just to answer the question on borrowing costs, that actually is charged to us through our indirect allocations. So we don't actually get charged borrowing costs on our operating budget that is approved by the board. It's actually allocated to us through the region in our what we refer to as below the line expenses. But I can get you the information in terms of what the borrowing costs are on those projects. The region did provide that to me. But just to clarify that those costs do not hit our direct budget.
Okay.
Okay.
No, that's fine. However, it is available under a budget that maybe we can use in the future. That's all. Good. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further members with questions? Member Gale.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to the Chief. Certainly, 3 of us are on the regional council here, and finances are going to be tough. But we sit here as board members on the police, and we have to have a hat that way. But we were told in our initiation that we represent the community. So I'm looking at it, and I was so proud of what you did with the armored vehicle, securing other donations for it and that was never covered enough in the press of what you did on that. Moving on from that, I'm going to the police command post for $450K. It'll be tough for me to support this, but I have some questions on it. Did you look at sharing it with other services? Well, I'll start my first question. How many times would we have used it last year?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we, in 2018, used our command post operationally a total of 14 times for varying lengths of duration, depending on the type of call. You know, in some cases, a protracted or prolonged missing person call can be several days that the command post is being used. A barricaded gunman type of call can be a couple of days or several hours. So 14 operational callouts, and then we also had 4 mandated training days that are part of the emergency task unit's required training. So a total of 18 times.
So Chief, you know you've impressed me since the day one that you became chief, in being not only the chief of police, but also a taxpayer in the Niagara region, looking at both sides on everything here. Is there any way that we can look at sharing a vehicle? We had a meeting with Hamilton Police 3 years ago where we had the chief of Hamilton, as I believe, as well as the board chair and board members about sharing things around the Niagara region. That was started by us talking about helicopters up in Peel and us saying that everybody's going to end up with a helicopter if we don't watch it on that. So we got together with Hamilton about sharing things. Is there any way that you can look at sharing something and deferring this for a year to another budget? Because after being out in Calgary and seeing the one that Calgary has for $1 million, they said, which was very advanced, and Moncton Police were beside me when that happened. They said that they just bought one for they had one donated for $400,000, probably the same thing as we had. I know how technological advancements happen every minute on it, and next year this year will be out of date next year, maybe. I'm just exaggerating, but is there any way of deferring this to next year and getting by? Because certainly you're getting the armored vehicle on that, or is this something that's crucial to you that you need? Plus, I'd like you did so well on donations, something like this. Is there any chance for us doing like a company did in Moncton? I won't say the company donated the whole thing to them. Is there any way that anybody in staff or something can look at the general public and say, hey, can you help us out here? Have you thought of this?
Through you, Mr. Chair, so to your first point of the question with regards to opportunities for sharing, so that was one of the items that we looked at when we had those initial meetings with Hamilton, and I believe Halton was part of that discussion as well. And I believe the feeling was amongst the 3 agencies that the command post was not something that was feasible for sharing, because when you need it, and at the same time, another service may require it as well. And again, for anything from missing persons to tactical calls to any number of scenarios operationally that can come up. I know all 3 of us, we talked about the ARV as well, as being an opportunity for sharing, and it was again felt that it wasn't something that was practical for sharing, and in fact it was probably something more aligned with being able to force multiply, if you will, so that if a situation occurred, we had the opportunity to have a second ARV as opposed to sharing. And I think we were able to convince the board of the day at the time that our approach, given the fact that the ARV was something that would be expected to last around 20 years, at the end of the day, a $300,000 cost spread out over 20 years was not to say that it wasn't that it's not a significant cost, but it was significantly reduced per annum based on the life expectancy. And I think that's the situation that we have here as well with the command post. It is not dire that we have it this year, but if not this year, then next year, absolutely. The model and type of command post that we have is impractical in that it requires somebody with an A-class license to drive it out to the scene for us. We are paying overtime. We only have a couple of people with A-class licenses within the organization. So it's very impractical and dependent upon their schedules and availability. And quite frankly, the command post in all likelihood would be utilized more often if not for the fact that it's so impractical for us to get it to a scene, bringing somebody in on overtime specifically to be able to drive the vehicle on a weekend or after hours to the scene. So those are my initial comments.
Okay, but I don't see a problem driving it. And I am saying that if you had a police officer on the right-hand side and grabbed a tractor-trailer driver with an A license that could drive that, we have a number of them around here. I could find 10 companies that would volunteer drivers to ride with a police officer to get it there. But my question on that front is, do you need mobile command units right away? Or is it within like 3 hours? You have a crime scene, you bring I know ARVs are needed right away, but the mobile command unit, that's why I asked about sharing. Why are you in a hurry to get a mobile command unit out there? I know there's certain episodes that might need it immediately, but normally, isn't it 3 or 4 hours is okay to get one there?
So, I mean, it really is all dependent upon the operational exigencies of that particular incident that our officers are faced with. And the sooner that we can get it to a scene, and it's not as critical as perhaps getting the ARV to the scene, but it plays a significant role in the command and control function of being able to provide oversight to a highly critical call that in all likelihood has the potential for SIU involvement, has the potential for an OIPRD oversight involvement as well. So again, being able to have that to a scene is our best case scenario for sure, to have it there so that we have areas for a scribe, we have areas for an incident commander, we have areas for the tactical commander, negotiators. All of that is critical and quite frankly mandated within the Police Services Act adequacy standards in terms of our response to those types of situations.
Okay, and as far as, I know that we don't want to be commercial. We don't want to have a big logo on the side of some things. But the NHL didn't want it on the boards and on the ice, and then they realized how much money it makes for them and how it's changed now. As far as us, would you consider, or do you have an avenue to seek donations? I mean, the banks, the people that are making billions of dollars in our Niagara region or through the country might want to kick in something with their name on it. Would you consider that, and is there an avenue to do that? I'd say that because Moncton got an oil company to donate it $400,000 for one.
Through you, Mr. Chair, in the case of the ARV, the donor who preferred to be anonymous approached us about that donation opportunity. And with respect to, I don't know that it's appropriate for us to be going out into the community and hat in hand and saying, we need a command post, and me walking into board offices of companies and saying, are you prepared to donate to this cause? Certainly if there were corporations, and again, your board policy is very specific with regards to donations and accepting donations and what they can be used for, and whether there's any potential for conflict of interest and whatnot. So if there was the potential for a donor that came forward, certainly we would explore that. But I don't know that you want me as chief of police to be going out into the community and hat in hand and asking for donations.
And I get you on that. You know, we don't want to see police officers out there going door to door for something like that. But I'm wondering if, just like the hospital puts a brochure out, the foundation of the hospital's put out, donate this, donate that, it's this and that. Maybe we don't want to go that far, but maybe we should look at that. And I don't know if that's legal, but maybe the province should go that way on some of these things, because I think that, like, people like to know that their names being associated with the police. Police are good. So I'd like to know, Chief, I'd like to talk to you down the way, or the chair, and find a way that we could put stuff out there that people can put it in, so it doesn't look gaudy with a big name on the side. But then again, if somebody wants to put in $100,000 towards this, and it looks like they're supporting the police, which they are, I'd like to have that avenue. Maybe it's too late for this one, but I've got another one I'm going to talk on first, and then I want to make a comment. The equipment asset tracker, is that the key one that we talked about, the key box? There was one that was a key box. Or
Yes, the key tracer.
May I ask, is that the one? For 150,000, equipment asset tracker? Because I don't see a key box in here. That's the one that, for 157, I believe it was last time. And it was like a key tracker box. And I had a lot of people call me saying, what the hell is going on here?
Question D. So, yeah, it's the one that is listed for 157,000, which is
Vehicle deployment system?
to expand the use of the electronic key cabinets to track police vehicle use, that one?
Okay, then I'll have a question on both those. Is there a return on an investment of us on the equipment asset tracker for $150,000? Is it worth it for us to put $150,000 into something like that? Are we losing that much on things that we need to have an equipment asset tracker for $150K? Please explain.
So the asset tracker is more along the lines, it's different than the key tracer. The asset tracker is being able to utilize barcoding and to be able to track pieces of equipment that our officers are utilizing on a day-to-day basis. So our officers are issued with their own pistols, but we do not issue personal issue tasers or personal issue portable radios or personal issue shotguns or personal issue C8 rifles. We pool those, and this, obviously, all of the items I've just named are expensive assets, and assets that obviously we wouldn't want to get out into the hands of the public. So this is a mechanism for us to be able to safeguard and without having to rely upon, right now it's books and scribes where we it's not automated process whatsoever. So this will be an automated process. We will have the ability to know when a piece of equipment leaves the building and when it comes back in automatically. And for an inventory purposes, I think that's the day and age that we're in, and we feel that it would be most appropriate, given the nature of the equipment that's involved, to be able to track it efficiently in that manner.
So through you, Chair, still, the $150,000 on this, does it alleviate any jobs? Does it, are we losing, misplacing, whatever you want to say it, equipment to that extent? And what's the depreciation on this asset tracker? Is that a computer program? Are we going to be funding this 5 years from now to, I'm looking at the return on investment on this. Is it worth it to buy this for a return for us?
So in terms of full-time employees, this is not going to result in the savings of any or the loss of any full-time employees. But what I can advise is that supervisors who are responsible for the issuing of the equipment are spending several hours, up to several hours a day, tracking the equipment to ensure that it has, it's been issued properly, recorded, and returned properly and recorded. This will eliminate that function and allow our supervisors to do what we want them to do, which is frontline supervision out on the road, and assisting our younger officers who are deployed out on the road in providing that oversight and supervision to those critical calls that they're going to. So there is a time savings component there, not necessarily a full-time employee savings.
And is there a depreciation on this? Is there something, is this a computer program? Or, so, how, I guess I'm turning to Akram.
I'll turn to Akram as to if
Yeah.
he can maybe be able to provide some background.
When are you going to come to us to say we have to replace this thing? If we buy it?
Good morning, through you, Mr. Chair. Usually, using the consultation with finance, we assign about a 5-year life cycle based on the depreciation. That doesn't mean that we're going to come back and replace it in 5 years. As long as the system is continues to be supported and compatible, in some situation, we could go to 7 years. So usually, what we use from a financial perspective, Laura, is we use a 5-year, and that's based on the regional policies. But as long as the software is meeting our expectation, our operational expectations, and is supported, and we're happy with it, we will keep it going.
So through you, Chief, to Akram again, maybe he's the one to answer this, or maybe you are, Chief. And I'm sorry to keep these questions going like this, but I'm looking at the return on this. It's a couple hours a day on each division, so you got about 6 hours a day, 3 divisions. I'm just trying to put this in my mind.
And it occurs twice a day, right? So you have because you have 12-hour shifts.
Okay, okay. Then going to the other one, which was the key box, the vehicle deployment system, it's called now, I believe. Can you explain that to me again? Because I tie these both in together. The one with, now we're keeping track of keys and vehicles. Is that right? Or please explain that again.
This initiative is designed to maximize our efficiencies in the use of capital funds, vehicles that are part of our fleet, and operational funds by reducing mileage claims and improve our maintenance program that will expand the useful life of the vehicle. The electronic key cabinet's designed to maximize the usage of each fleet vehicle by pooling the vehicles issued to administrative and investigative units located within the same facility into one central pool. And by assigning vehicles to a central pool, the service realizes benefits such as an overall reduction in the number of fleet vehicles required due to increased utilization of each vehicle in the pool, an increase in the availability of fleet vehicles, which reduces the dependency for the use of personal vehicles and mileage claims, reduction in maintenance of parked vehicles for extended periods of time, increased accountability resulting from the ability to track the driver and vehicle within the software key tracer system, improved ability for the fleet to implement a proactive maintenance program for pooled vehicles. The centralization of multiple units in the headquarters facility enabled the service to address the underutilization of many vehicles that were assigned to specific investigative or administrative units. And during the planning of HQ, the need to amalgamate the various pools of vehicles were identified. In September of 2018, the service implemented the Key Tracer carpool system as a pilot project to determine the effectiveness of pooling administrative and investigative vehicles in headquarters. And this capital request is to enable the service to expand this initiative across the remainder of our facilities.
Thanks, Chief, and through you to Akram, another 5-year deal on this before you, is that usually the life on something like this?
Usually, we go a little bit more, because this is a major infrastructure, because it's hardware as well, but we go more than that, but about 7, I think, about 7 years.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, if I may just make an additional comment, because I think you asked a very good question about the ROI of the previous system. And further to the Chief's comments addressing the operational visibility on those expensive assets, we do have plans, and I've talked to Acting Deputy Chief Rain, is we're also looking to extend that to IT as well, for the IT assets, laptops, monitors, computers, because those are also mobile devices, and also the mobile data terminals in the vehicles. Those are mobile devices that are expensive assets. So it is, after we address the direct operational risks, I don't want to call them risks, need for containing those assets and know where they are, IT is going to be, so the ROI is going to go above and beyond the expensive asset like tasers, radios, and so forth. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, and
Resolving
other
the-
services have used this prior to us? I know you've tested it, but other services to good results?
So the RCMP uses it, and we've gone with acting deputy friend to, example, the Barrie Police. We've actually seen it in action. It is tied to a CCTV camera, so you know who's taken an asset in case you've taken it as an emergency, other than the 2 periods. So, but we've seen it in action. It wasn't a pilot or a POC. We've seen it in a police environment. But the RCMP is using it as well.
Okay, thank you. And to you, Chair, I don't want to vote no on the budget, on the items, but I have a problem with the $450,000 for the mobile command vehicle. Can that be separated out?
Yeah, we could, as we come through the motion, we could separate that particular
Okay.
item and vote on that one separately.
Perfect, thank you.
I have Member Ganzel.
Thank you. And through you to the chief on this item, and it's regarding the vehicle deployment system. Had a discussion a year ago with Acting Deputy Chief Frayne on this matter. Fully support this. Can you tell me here at headquarters, if I recall, you're actually are able to reduce the fleet of vehicles by 4 by going into the carpool system? Is that a good number to use, or is it slightly higher?
Through the pilot, I believe that we were able to confirm that we didn't require 2 vehicles. And that's, again, one of the features within this program is the ability to be able to track mileage, to be able to track the usage of that vehicle. And in this case, we were able to validate that we could do with 2 less vehicles in the fleet.
Then, using that number, and I take it to the larger divisions, St. Catharines and Welland, would it be fair to say that in each one of those, there might be 1 or 2 vehicle, again, reduction being able to pool? I'm trying to get to sort of a number here, because I believe within 1 year of vehicle reduction, we pay for this system, just in vehicles we don't have to buy, using an average cost maybe of $50,000 for a car.
I can't, I wish I could say that, yes, that is going to be the case in the smaller districts, but we don't have the same number. Obviously, we have roughly 65% or 70% of our staffing complement work out of this building. So obviously more vehicles attached to this building as well, or this work location. The other locations, smaller numbers. But I think what it does allow us to do is to be able to move vehicles from that are perhaps being underutilized in one area and move them to another area of the service where they're going to get utilized more, and take another vehicle that's getting high mileage on it, excuse me, and transfer it to an area where it may be not utilized as much, and again, be able to get the biggest bang for our buck from our fleet.
Okay, thank you. But I think it would be fair to say that the intent of this system, besides the vehicle control of mileage and all of the maintenance issues on this, is moving to the ability within the service of having a pool of vehicles, because a detective office, even though it might be staffed by 6 people, do not need 6 cars, for example, because some of the work is done inside the office versus being on the road. And when they do go on the road, because myself and Member Eek witnessed this when a unit came back in one afternoon, we saw them go through the process of returning a set of keys and the information that had to be entered into the system. But by reducing the number of vehicles we have to purchase as a capital expense, I'll go on a limb here, more than likely we'll actually pay for this system in 1 year. That's why I was wondering if we're getting to a number of about 4 vehicles, which would not have to be purchased as part of a capital asset.
Individual vehicle costs are, in the neighborhood of $35,000, so, on average.
Okay, so there's a marginal amount of return on less money being purchased for vehicles by using this system. It sounds to be about 70,000, using the 2 vehicles that you mentioned earlier.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chair Canzel. We have Member Eek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to follow up on the command vehicle that was previously discussed with Member Gale. And I want to be supportive of this unit. And a couple questions as a new member. It's my understanding that the current command post vehicle is one that's is mobile with a fifth wheel vehicle. And I would think that a single vehicle would have some benefits. And the other would be, what is the current age or depreciated value of the existing vehicle? And perhaps some of the technology that can be gained with the purchase of this new vehicle. I'm not as distressed with respect to what the value is and the depreciation. I would like to know perhaps just the years, just to have an understanding of what we're replacing and perhaps a further benefit as to the rationale why.
So it is a 2006 trailer, and you're quite correct. It is a fifth wheel type of trailer that requires both a truck to be able to tow it and again, the appropriate driver with the A-class driver license.
And in seeing the vehicle in Calgary Police Command vehicle, it was outfitted with a host of variable electronics to monitor the situations and keep track. This new vehicle will offer some benefits that the current vehicle does not have.
It certainly will with regards to technology, and again, within the adequacy standards, there is the requirement for that ability to have negotiators and to be able to fully support up to 6 members of the service operating within that for extended periods of time. So it has to have washroom facilities, place for the members to eat, et cetera. But along with that will be enhanced electronic technology to assist. You can appreciate now with, since 2006, the advancement in technologies that we have seen across the region, across the globe. We utilize cameras on UAVs or drones, so we'll be able to have that video footage go directly into the command center to be able to provide, again, the situational awareness to our incident commander and our tactical commanders. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and we'll be able to provide that to our people without putting any officers at risk, which is now we don't have that capability, so we're looking forward to that.
Thank you very much.
Member Gibson?
Thank you, Chair, and through you. So what class of license would the new anticipated command post require?
Just a regular G-type license.
Okay, thank you. The car cost, does that include the retrofit of all the equipment, or is that the cost that we're paying to the manufacturer? The cages, all the rest of it?
That's for the vehicle itself, and then oh, I stand corrected, that's everything.
Okay, thank you. In regards to the command post as well, one of the features that's extremely important is during cold calls in January, it's a place to eat, it's a place for the officers to, more importantly, warm up during cold calls. I personally experienced that, and to keep things working properly, that if you are into an emergent situation, your officers are rotating through and warming up and that sort of thing. So there's multiple uses for one of those units. So accommodating 6 people is very good. I don't know what the current one does, but for the number of people that can be in there at one time. So.
I mean, that's not an issue with the current trailer. It does have the capacity to have, more than 6 people. as will the new vehicle. That's just what, at a minimum, what's required under the adequacy standard is for 6 people.
Right, okay, that's all I have, thank you.
Thank you, member. I have member Steele.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just on the same lines as Member Gale and Member Ganzel, on our business case pages here that we're given, there's an operating budget impact that says future costs or savings. So under, I'll use the key cabinet software. It shows the cost per year for the licensing, but nothing is built in there for, in, let's say, year 2 or year 3, where we may not need to purchase 1 or 2 or 3 or X amount of vehicles, plus the savings on maintenance and things like that. I think we need to see as a board what the cost savings are going forward in purchasing this. And Councillor Gale brought this up, is what is the payback on some of this stuff? So if over the life of this, if it's 7 years, we're gonna save X amount of vehicles, X amount of repairs and maintenance and any other costs associated with these vehicles, I think we as a board need to see that. It's listed here, but it's not here. So I really want to see a change in that. The other one is on the command post. You're probably gonna be able to sell the truck and trailer that we have now at some point on a government website or something. We should at least see the cost, estimated cost of what we feel that, you know, if we're gonna get 10,000 for it or 20,000, because, you know, again, that would go back towards the purchase of the vehicle, although it may not be a lot of money because it is a 2006. But there are savings on some of these things that we're doing. So there is some type of payback, not necessarily the 100% or a large payback. But again, as a board member, I want to see these things. So I think we need to show why we're doing this and if there is a savings going forward. A lot of items won't have savings because it's just something's gone and we need something new and it just replaces it and there is no payback. But certain amount of this stuff and what you've said today, there is a payback. I'd really like to know what it is. And I think most of the other board members around this table would like to know what it is. So going forward, if we could get that on any capital budget, specifically under these, under the operating budget impacts portion of these, it makes a decision a lot easier and probably alleviates maybe a lot of questions around this table. Because as Chair Ganzel said, this key electronic key cabinet and software, over the course of 7 years, it looks like it'll more than pay back what we're putting in today. So, you know, it's good to know. I mean, because like Member Gale, I'm like, well, if we don't need it, why are we buying it? Well, now after a better explanation, it sounds like, yes, we do need it, and yes, it will pay for itself plus. So we'll make sure that we get that going forward from staff.
Points are well taken, and we'll make sure we incorporate that going forward.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Just on that point, Chief, also, if there's a staff hour efficiency savings, if that could be noted too. I know it may not be a dollar value, but it's a redeployment of time, as you mentioned, to other frontline positions or anything like that. So if that's included in the report, that's also a savings. It's not a dollar value, but it's an inherent efficiency savings. That if we see that from a board perspective, it makes it more likely that items could pass through a lot quicker in the sense that we see that there's savings there. Thank you, Chief.
Understood, thanks.
Okay. Any further questions to the report? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion, but I'm just going to split item 1 into 1A and 1B just to meet the request of splitting the command post vehicle. So 1A in the motion would just, the number change would be from 4.1 million to 3.7 million, 664,500. So I'm just taking out the vehicle, and then B will be the vehicle. So we'll vote on those separate, and then we'll have to, depending on how those votes go, 2 may be affected or may not be affected. So we'll do item number 1A.
Chair, I request a recorded vote on both these items.
Both of them.
Thanks.
Sure, that's not a problem. Okay, so, all right, so I need a motion for 1A, which is just the capital budget at the 3.764,500. Motion by Member Gale, second by Member Eek. And just refresh my memory on the recorded vote. Does Deb call the question, or we just? Okay. Okay, oh, I just keep track of that, it's not a verbal one, okay. It's a recorded vote, so all those in favor?
Can we be more clear on the vote, first of all?
Yeah, it's, if you're looking at the agenda, there's a motion. It'll be part 1A, which is that the 2020 capital budget of the Niagara Regional Police Service of $3,764,500 as summarized in Appendix 1 be approved. Okay. That, and then part B will be the 450,000 command post. So that's the motion that's on the floor.
Lisa's just asking if you can confirm that number, that it actually,
This-
three
Not
points.
that I'm questioning the accountant's subtraction, but we just want to make sure we have the right number.
Well,
Laura's just
okay.
checking it.
I did it manually, so if you have a calculator, you can confirm my number.
2A would be 3,704,500, 3704500.
You are correct. Thanks for the adjustment. And could I get a calculator added to my desk later? Okay. Okay. So the motion's on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. I'll call the question. All those in favor? It's a recorded vote, so please show your hand. Okay, those in favor, those opposed? It is carried unanimously. Okay. So then, Part B of the motion is now just that the 2020 capital budget of Niagara Regional Police Services of $450,000 for a command post be approved. So that's Part B. So I'm looking for a motion to put that on the floor. Member Steele, second by Member Ganzel. Again, it's a recorded vote, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? It is carried. From there, number 2, part 2 of the motion that's in our agenda here won't change. So if I could have a mover, I could put 2 and 3 together now. If I could have a mover for part 2 and 3. Member Steele, Member McKendrick. I'll call the vote then. All those in favor? Those opposed? It's carried. So that now moves us into new business. We have item 1, which is the NRPS Police Capital Reserve Capital Project closeout and transfer. If I could have a mover and seconder to put that on the floor for discussion, moved by Member Eek, seconded by Member Gibson. Is there any questions or discussion on the report? Okay, seeing none then, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? It's carried. We move now to item 2, listing of capital projects financed from debenture debt. It's an information report. If I could have a mover to put that on the floor, Member Gale, seconded by Member Chair Ganzel. Any questions to the report? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? It's carried. That moves us to item number 3, the NRPS Reserve Fund Summary. This is also an information report. If I could have a mover and a seconder put it onto the floor. Member Eek, seconded by Member McKendrick. Any questions on the report? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? It's carried. We'll move to item number 4, the NRPS Financial Variance Overview, year ending June 30th, 2019. Again, an information report. If I could have a mover and a seconder to put it on the floor. Member Steele and Member Gibson. Any questions to the report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Those opposed? It's carried. That now moves us to item number 5, which is the Niagara Region 2020 Budget Planning. It's an to be received for information. If I could have a mover and a seconder to put that on the floor. Member McKendrick, seconded by Member Gibson. Any discussion on that report? Okay, I do, just to the chief, I know that Niagara Regional Council has put 1.3% growth related for business cases for the ABC and the departments. Is that something the service will look forward into the future? I know we had some discussion about sometimes expanding services as the region grows, at looking at a business case potentially for further officers or anything like that. Is that an area that we'll be targeting the 1.3% growth for coverage of some of the expanded services?
Yes, that will be incorporated into our operating budget, which we'll present on October the 3rd.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Any further questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? It's carried. Is there any other business? Chief, nothing? No. Okay, so our next meeting is Thursday, October 3rd, 9:30 a.m. for the Finance Committee. So motion for adjournment, moved by Member Steele, second by Chair Ganzel. All those in favor? Those opposed? It's carried. Finance Committee adjourned.